Okay, so we will review simplifying radicals. There is two things that you have to remember to simplify radicals. One, you should know the list of perfect square numbers. A perfect square number, for example, number 9 is produced by 3 times 3, and so and so. For example, 100 is produced by 10 times 10. So this is why we call perfect square number. Also, we need to apply this rule in order to simplify radicals. So let's start. For example, square root of 16. So you come here to your table and you said, okay, square root of 16 must be 4. Why? Because 4 times 4 is 16. The same thing, 144, square root of 144. I come right here and you said, okay, it will be 12. Why? Because 12 times 12 makes 144. So the perfect square root of 144 is equal to 12. What about 12? Now, the square root of 12, you don't see 12 right here in the list. So now we need to simplify, we need to apply this rule. So the key is this, that you will be looking at number, a perfect square number listed right here, multiplied by another number that should give you or should produce 12. And I am thinking that will be 4 times 3, correct? Now, 4 times 3, it says, according to this rule, now it looks like xy inside the radical. So 4 times 3 means that we can simplify as a square root of 4 times a square root of 3. Correct? Now, so now you know that the square root of 4 is 2. And the square root of 3, we cannot simplify that. So we will just write down. So now this will be the simplest form of a square root of 12. Okay? And the same thing in here. I'm looking for two numbers. When I multiply a perfect square number and another number should give us 48. Maybe you need to use your calculator and play with the values 48 divided by 4 by 9 by 16, and you will find that 16 times 3, for example, will be 48. So remember that when we can split this as a square root of 16 times a square root of 3, a square root of 16 will be 4, correct? Divided by 3. That should be the simplest form of the square root of 48. Now, we have a higher value. So, for example, we have 72 in this case. So, if you have a higher value, again, you can use maybe your calculator and you can find that 72 divided by 9 is 8. In other words, 9 times 8 is equal to 72. Now we can split as a square root of 9 times the square root of 8, and the square root of 9 is 3 times the square root of 8. But still, we need to simplify 8. So, what do you mean? Yes, because 8 you can divide by 4. In other words, inside of the radical, I have 4 times 2. So it means I can split as 3 times a square root of 4 times the square root of 2. Now remember that 4 is a perfect square, so it will be 3 times 2, because the square root of 4 is 2, times the square root of 2. 3 times 2 will be 6 times the square root 2. That will be the answer. But you can do it in a different way also. Also, I remember that square root of 72 is the same as 36 times 2, correct? And 36 is a perfect square number right here. So, in other words, square root of 36 times square root of 2, square root of 36 is 6, and the square root of 2 we cannot simplify. So the answer will be 6 times the square root of 2, which is exactly the same thing. So now what about when we have a square root of negative numbers? The rule says this. If we have a square root of negative 1, this will be the square root of 1 times I. It means that this negative comes outside as I. So now a square root of 1 is 1 I, and 1 times I will be just I. Okay? So in other words, we cannot find the square root of negative 16. So we need to apply this rule. The negative has to come outside. So in order to perform the square root of negative 16, the I and the negative comes outside of the radical as a I. Now we have a square root of 16, which is 4, so the answer will be 4I. Okay? What about if we don't have a perfect squares? The same thing. So the negative has to come outside as a I, so we will have a square root of 12 times I. The I is outside of the radical. Make sure that we have outside of the radical. Now, square root of 12 we solved above, so this will be 4 times square root of 3, and I will be outside, so therefore the answer will be 2 times square root of 3I in the simplest form. Likewise, when we have a square root of a negative 48, this negative has to come outside, so this will be the same as a square root of 48 times I. Okay? Remember that we can simplify 48 as a square root of 16 times a square root of 3 times I. So therefore, square root of 16 will be 4. Square root of 3I. This will be the simplest form of negative of square root of negative 48. Okay, another skill that you need to develop or you need to review is the rationalizing of the denominator. So the rule says if you have square root of a divided by square root of x, we multiply both numerator and denominator by the denominator, then we will have the answer. And that way we will remove the radical in the denominator. We don't like having radical in the denominator. This is why we say rationalizing the denominator. So let's see. So now, according to the rule of exponents, we can simplify this as a square root of 3 divided by square root of 5. Now this looks like this, correct? It says this will be equal So we have a square root of 3 divided by square root of 5. Now we will multiply this by the value of the denominator. In other words, by square root of 5 times square root of 5, also the same value in the numerator. So in fractions, you remember, if you multiply the denominator, you have to multiply this with the same value, the numerator. So in this case, this will be the same as 3 times 15 will be, 3 times 5 will be 15. So if we multiply inside the radical, so will be square root of 15 divided by square root of 5 times 5 will be 25. So now we will get the square root of 15 is a irrational, we cannot simplify, it's not irrational number, I'm sorry, but we cannot simplify because there is no such a perfect square number as a factor inside of 15, but the square root of 25 is 5. So this will be the simplest form of this radical. Okay, let's do the same thing. Another example. So we have 3 over square root of 5. According to the rule, it says this will be equal to 3 over the square root of 5 times, again, we have to multiply by a square root of 5, the numerator and denominator. So we will have 3 times a square root of 5 divided by 5 times 5 inside the radical, we can multiply, which was 25, equal to 3 times square root of 5 divided by square root of 25 is 5. So this should be the answer in the simplest form. Okay, thank you. So please make sure to review your skills, and you will be in good shape in this class of college algebra.